So, okay. So I'm not gonna be storyboarding in this. I'm gonna be doing what I do before I storyboard. Before I ever storyboard, what I do is I break down other good cinema. All right, I'm gonna try to make this fast, okay? I'm gonna try to make this snappy. Me explaining all this stuff, it can take a lot of time, but I'm just gonna try to go. Because I got things to do, and I'm sure you got things to do, and I can't just sit around here all day doing this, okay? Because like, what's the best thing to study in cinema? Obviously, it's the newest trends. You're gonna learn so much. I'm just gonna like, I'm gonna ride the waves of popularity. I'm gonna ride the waves of pop culture. For real though, I love this movie. Nicole and I went and saw it in theaters the other day, and it just offered something fresh to the table, and there's a lot of scenes that I really wanted to go over after I watched the film. Here I just chose one scene that I'm gonna go over. There's some amazing art in this film, visual development, all that stuff. I really wanted to get into all of it, but I can't. Right now I'm just gonna be getting into the storyboards, so we're gonna be breaking down one of the scenes. I guess for some people this may consist of some spoilers, but it looks like a scene that was actually posted by Sony or something like that. Yeah, there's not crazy spoilers in it, but yeah. So like I said, I'm gonna be breaking down this scene. I can't do storyboards. I can't understand anything unless I break it down. I can't get better at something without understanding it first. Like in high school, the science teacher, math teacher, all these classes that I was taking, the teachers wouldn't really explain. Sometimes they didn't even know themselves. I would ask like, why is this formula like this? Why is math like this? Why is science, this and that? And often they would just be like, well, it just is. And that's just not how I learn things. I have to break it down and understand how it works. That's why I failed high school. I didn't fail, but I basically failed. Wowie woo, ladies and gentlemen. What a ride. That's not my work, obviously. I really don't, I want to talk to the board artist who did this. I don't know any of the storyboard artists that worked on this, so this is another thing we're going to be talking about in this video. 2D storyboards versus 3D storyboards. In 2D animation, it's going to be a flat image. In 3D animation, I really don't know how it works specifically, especially for a feature film. But in 3D animation, in the final product, you're going to have a camera that moves around like this. The camera is able to follow a character being animated in a 3D space. Let's say a character's coming out of this doorway and he's gonna go down the stairs. The camera can literally follow the character being animated down these stairs and twist like this. Look how the camera's twisting. It can follow this character. And you can kind of manipulate this motion in 2D storyboards by, panning the background a specific way, panning the foreground a specific way, but you can't get a camera turning in 3D space. So this was something that really interests me about the film. The camera can be a character in itself. It can have a motion, it can have a flow to it that regular 2D cameras typically don't have. Okay, what I see wrong on most people's work, most people's storyboards, they have a lack of intent. So I tried to break down what the intent of this scene was. Also another thing I see in people's storyboards where they go wrong is the timing. It feels very slow. They're not timing it like they're not doing the editing properly. And as a storyboard artist, sometimes that's not your job. Your job is an editor. But on Voltron, when I worked on Voltron, editing was, you were everything. You were the animator, you were the editor pretty much in the storyboards in Voltron. Okay, so the intent. This is kind of moving into story territory. Story and what this scene needs to say. So what does this scene need to establish? At this point in time in the film, if you watch the film, this scene needs to establish some things. One of the things it needs to establish is that Miles is new to the job. He's new at being Spider-Man. At this point, he can't even shoot webs. This is something that the storyboard artists are gonna have to show in a creative way. And another thing that they need to show is the environment. Sometimes environment is secondary, but in this film, a lot of it is about the visuals. So they really want to show off the environment. What better way can you do that? Can you show off the environment of like New York or downtown or wherever this is, than by putting the characters in traffic? They could have had this fight scene in a warehouse, they could have had it on the rooftops, but they chose downtown traffic. Okay, Miles is in for real danger. He doesn't really get hurt in this scene. The scene doesn't really have that many consequences, which I kind of wish it did. Not get hurt to like a crazy extent, just enough to show that these bad guys are for real. Like this situation has stakes. Miles is new to the job. How can we show that? He's gonna be stumbling around a lot. Obviously he can't shoot a web. His whole movement kind of needs to look like he's fumbling, like he's in this constant fall. He's barely escaping. Okay, so at every point, at a character pose, at camera angle, camera motion, background interaction, all of this stuff, I need to be asking the intent. I can't just watch it and just turn my brain off. As a designer, as a storyboard artist, you can't just watch it and turn your brain off. You have to question, why did they do that? Out of all the decisions they could have made, why did they do that? Why did they move the camera this way? Why did the character move this certain way? And it's gonna be tedious at first. After you watch a bunch of films, you'll just do it automatically. You'll immediately recognize why they make the decisions that they make. All right, so here we're just gonna start with the first shot. So if you blur your vision and don't pay attention to the details, watch this shot, feel the camera, how the camera moves. The camera swoops in with Miles, and then after that it continues. It follows through with the left pan as Miles falls to the ground. Swoops in and then continues that pan. In some situations, especially in action, the camera is almost attached to the characters. It will follow the motions. Let's understand the intent behind this right now. The camera's moving from right to left, the character's also moving from right to left. And pretty much this whole scene happens from right to left. Okay, no establishing shot. Establishing shot means, really quick, in the next scene, at the end of this one, boom, that's an establishing shot. A lot of the times you'll see it shot 3/4 down, so it's establishing the environment. Like, okay, you know where we are, we're at a church. Next scene's gonna probably be a mid or a close-up. Yeah, and here it's a mid, it's him walking into the graveyard. Like I said, you have to question everything. Why does this one start? I can't remember if there's a shot before this in the film, but right here, why does this one start without an establishing shot? The reason they didn't have an established and they had a mid right here and it was kind of moving in with the character, like something's coming up behind him, almost like a POV shot of the villain. It gives this opening shot a feeling of urgency, and there's something chasing you, you're just thrown into it, just like he's thrown into it. You can't see everything around you, you don't know where you are, you're in a closed, confined space. Okay, this next shot. Moves in, follows his movement. So here's a straight horizon line right here. The camera is automatically at a Dutch angle. It's already tilted a little bit, so you have this motion of, you're kind of unsteady, right? Right here, you can't see this guy's face very well. Again, camera's kind of starting with the Dutch angle. Camera follows Miles as he hits the car. So this is something else I'm going to be talking about, interacting with the environment. Sometimes in storyboards, characters don't really do anything with the environment. So already, you have this couple right here, camera's pulling back, he runs into this. That's four environment interactions. Camera's gonna pan to the left, follows him. All right, check this out. How long was the bad guy on the screen? Like a second. We're gonna get to that later. The camera's gonna take a POV, point of view, so it's gonna be, it's gonna have an emotion that it is connected to the character. The camera pushes in right up until his face, right there. So the camera's gonna push in, and then the next scene right here pulls out and then pans to the right. It's gonna push in and then pull out. Watch this. And it's fast. Boom, boom, boom. Snappy. Now here the camera's gonna twist around Miles. All right, watch this. So the camera's gonna go this way, and now the camera is in front of Miles, looking behind him. I studied this for a little bit, and I thought, why would they do that? Why would they start from behind him? Because everything has a purpose, all right? In good film, every single camera movement, they're not gonna be like, well, let's just animate this scene and let's just see how it looks. No, they're planning out every single camera movement, and they gotta think, how can we combine multiple shots to get one emotion, one purpose for a specific shot? So what's the purpose for this? Why does it start behind him and move in front of him? For one, it's dynamic, all right? It looks cool. The conclusion that I came to is that this guy's still chasing him. You still want a feeling, you still want an emotion of somebody's coming up behind him, but you don't want to cut the camera, okay? So it's gonna start from behind him and it's gonna twist so you can see his emotion, you can see his face, and also this feeling of like he's a rabbit and something is chasing him. You know, he's a prey and there's a predator behind him. Okay, at this point, I gotta talk about something else, just really quick. So there's a thing that I noticed about this film is that the clarity in it, the clarity of the action, the clarity of everything. In comic books and animation, everything that you do, it has to be clear. You don't want to create a final product that you could tweak every single second of, and then it just not be clear. You gotta create something that is super clear to the viewer. Let's just see one of these scenes that I did not think was very clear and confused the heck out of me. Alright, I'm going off on a tangent here, but I was watching Jurassic Park 2 the other day, and there was just some scenes that were just tripping me out. They were just so confusing. So, screen direction has a lot to do with this. The way the camera cuts, all this stuff, it's confusing. So I'm gonna go over a little bit. I think Steven Spielberg directed this, which is kind of why I'm confused. Like, why were these scenes so jumbled up? I don't know if Steven Spielberg specifically did these scenes, these shots. I don't know. Okay, so this is an establishing shot. So some great acting here. All right, that kind of makes sense. Like, okay, now the car's here. No, oh wait, you know what? That doesn't make any sense at all. Let's watch that again. She's behind the car here, but behind the right tire, and now it's kind of off to the side. Like, I'm already kind of confused, but all right, I'm going with it. And now, look at this cut. How did they get over here? How did they get over? Who is this? Okay, what kind of cut was that? Let's watch that again. All right, I'm not letting it play through. Sorry, let's. Okay, watch. Boom. Okay. Where are you? I don't understand where you are in this scene. Now they're okay, now they're back on the car, and now they ran into a door. So you didn't show that there was a door in the first place. Like, are you trying to build up tension to I'm not going to go over everything because there's a lot wrong with this scene and animation. For one, the silhouettes aren't clear at all. Like, I can't tell where everybody is. And that's overall for this film. I can't tell where anything is. So after they shut the door, it cuts to this. Where are we now? I don't understand where we are now. It's confusing to me. It might not be confusing for some people. Alright, so, look. Man, it's hard to believe that Steven Spielberg directed this because he's so clear with a lot of... Okay, their silhouettes aren't that clear. I can see what they're trying to do with the light. And in this, the dinosaur jumps up and tries to bite the person. It's still not clear. None of this is clear. I'm wondering if it's my monitor. Anyway, moving on from that, you have to be clear. As a storyboard artist, you're not going to be making the lighting decisions all the time. But it's something to keep in mind. If you're a background designer, a background painter, a visual development artist, you gotta be clear. That's your first step, is be clear. Okay, so the reason I say that is because this next scene, it's pretty clear. Let's go over characters' positions on the screen. Right here, the bad guy's on the right side of the screen. Right here, Miles is on the left. Bad guy's on the right. Miles is still on the left. Bad guy's on the right. Miles is on the left. He does a quick shake up right now. He's moved to the right side of the screen. But quickly, bad guy moves back to the right side of the screen. Miles is on the left. Still, the camera's changing all around them. They're keeping the characters in the same positions, so it's clear. It's clear where they are, right? You can change this up in animation. You can change it up in live action. You just got to know how to change it up. If you're gonna switch, it's a good rule to stick by, though. All right, look. We already have clarity right here. This is the focus of the scene. There is danger near here. This hand is right here in the front of the screen with this light behind it. Nice silhouette. Still there. Look how clear that is. Look at the sharp points on that thing. Miles flies to the left. He's still on the left side of the screen. This hand is still silhouetted. Kind of at a Dutch angle. This is so dynamic. I love it. This arm coming towards the camera. And then right here, he pulls his arm back and he speeds up. And the camera rushes forward with the motion of this dude. Watch it rush forward. It moved with the motion of his hand, like the camera attached to his hand. Okay, here we're back at the bad guy's face. Pay attention here. How long did that last? Again, this lasts like 1 second. It's on this guy's face. You still can't even see him that well. You can see the outline of him. People are afraid of things that they can't understand. People are afraid of things they can't see. People are afraid of the unknown. If you put a bad guy on the screen for like an hour, after the hour's done, you're like, man, I don't even care. Like, this guy's not scary anymore. Put the camera on him for a split second in the middle of a fight scene where you can barely see his face. Like, it's gonna be scary, okay? Limit the time that you see of your bad guys, people. Now the camera is going to be pulling back, following Miles. So why did the camera pull back and follow Miles at this point? Why would they do that? Because later on in the scene, Miles goes flying. So it's informational. It's information at this point. You know where he is in space, in the physical space of this truck. And I love it too because look, the light on this motorcycle, you still can't see him very clearly, but I love this. Look how clear. Like, if you want to make something clear, literally put a light right behind it. And like, look, he's just, you can tell where he is. Look at that pose. That is a beautiful T-pose right there. That's not a T-pose. All right, the cam does a quick truck out after this. Why? Let's try to figure this out. Watch it, it's really subtle. It's really subtle, the cam jumps back out. Why would the camera do that? Really quick jump out. Because it matches with the next scene, that's why. Watch. Camera's attached to the truck's coming this way. The camera moves in, he pops the tire, and then a quick, subtle pull out, and then in the next scene, it's as if the camera has turned and is now going under the red light, slightly twisting. So, one, it has a fluidity. It's kind of moving with the shot. It's moving you into the next scene seamlessly. And another note that I think it also works is that this truck is going at a certain speed and suddenly it has a tire blown out, and now the truck moving at this speed is gonna suddenly jolt backwards. So it's moving, tire pops, boom, and now the camera's going to... Like the camera is almost moving too fast for the truck because the truck is suddenly slowed down. I'm probably reading too much into it, but it has that emotion to it. It has a jerk feeling to it. Quick shot of the tire. Now, why was there a shot of the tire? The scene could have worked without the shot of the blown out tire. I think it could have worked. But what it's doing is, I'll explain it. I'll explain it in a little bit. Why? Tire. Overall character movement is right to left. Miles is in front of this guy's right behind him. At the end of the scene, Miles ends up on the right side of the screen and the bad guy ends up on the left. Why is that? Because it's almost like a battle between which side of the screen they're on. If Miles can get to the right side of the screen, then he has surpassed this guy. He's gotten out of his reach. At some point in this scene, they're gonna have to switch places. So at the beginning, Miles is fumbling, he's barely making it, and at the end, he's made this transition to having the upper hand. And then right here, they switch positions. Now the bad guy's gonna be on the left side. Now they're gonna stick to that for the rest of the scene. Now the bad guy's on the left side, Miles is on the right, you know where they are in space. Clarity right here, everything is so bright, and then you have this, and even to make it even more clear, they just made his character blown out right here, and they actually went in and it looked like they drew over these poses, and it looks so cool. And so before, he seemed to be fumbling. At the beginning of the scene, he was fumbling, he was all over the place. And now at this point, his last motion of action, it looks like he's flying through the air. This is an accident. But then right here, he takes control. At this point, he's almost like in control of this scene, and he flies through, and I love this. This car and this car are closing in on him. So here the camera's gonna follow this guy coming in. He's gonna go sideways. You can see that the bike's gonna be kind of going under the car at this point, and this cutting at this point is really, really snappy. And this you didn't have a lot of detail. Like how exactly did the bike go in? How exactly did the bike come out without hitting him? That's all detail that is lost in the cutting. You don't need it if the cutting is fast enough. You cut really fast and the camera moves really fast. All of this motion, this bike flying through here, this is intuitive. You don't think about it as it happens, it's just an emotion that you feel. Watch, it's so fast. Boom, do you see how fast that was? You probably didn't even think about it up until this point. Boom! Boom! Look how fast that was. Didn't even think about it. And play your storyboard, and if it feels like it has motion, if it feels snappy, and it feels good, that's all that matters, is if it has a good feeling to it. And the only way you can really understand emotion is if you watch a lot of film, watch a lot of animation. Really quick, so the end of this, the scene's pretty much done. The camera does a slow close into him. It's almost like one of those Spielberg shots where it's kind of focusing on the eyes. The camera's coming in, like there's intent here. There's like mystery. What is he looking at? And then it comes back to like a point of view. The camera has felt like it's a handheld camera. Kind of shaking. Nothing's there. The freaking soundtrack comes in, sounds insane. I love it. He doesn't see anything, so the camera follows him, he runs away. And then the camera does a slow pull out away from that guy. And then the next scene it does a slow push in for the establishing shot. Anyway, okay, the scene's pretty much done at this point. But I want to talk about the overall scene right here. Why tire? We'll look at that in a second. I made this graph. I didn't really put too much thought into it, so it might not kind of make complete sense, but let's check it out. Okay, here you have the cutting speed of the camera. And here you have, roughly, it kind of makes sense, the stakes, how high the stakes are, or how close the bad guy is to the goal, and the goal is to like capturing Miles. We're kind of getting into story right here. If you know storytelling, you know there's this thing called the climax, all right? So everything in the story is building to this climax, to this point where something happens. And it can be gradual, sometimes it depends on what kind of storytelling you enjoy, but for the most part, it's a very gradual thing. It goes up and then it kind of goes down a little bit, and it goes up and it goes down. Okay. You get the point. This point right here, this is where Miles dies. We almost hit that point, but we don't quite hit it. As it goes along, the cutting speed is gonna get faster, snappier and snappier. Right before it hits right here, it's gonna be pretty snappy. All right, the cutting speed, scene to scene, it's gonna be snappy right there. Right about here, it's gonna be snappy again. If you look at this film's story progression overall, it's gonna look very similar to this. So a scene is basically a shorter version of the film. Not all of them are gonna line up exactly perfect, but it's a good basis to start on. So the reason it's like this and not like this is because there's this thing called contrast. Contrast is key. Contrast is key to anything. You can't have good guys without bad guys. You can't have excitement without boredom. The film had a lot of great contrast in it, I think. In each of these fighting scenes, there's a moment of lull. Or not necessarily lull, but it's a little bit slower. And the camera's not gonna be so cutty. It's gonna be more fluid. So let's just run over it again real quick. Camera's fluid right here. Really fluid right here, not very cutty. The scenes are lasting pretty long, okay? Compared. Still lasting pretty long. Right here, this is one of the climax points. It's gonna be cutty right here, watch. Cut. Cut, cut. Boom, now it's gonna be back to flowy, kind of flowing, chilling right now. Kind of flowing, all right? It's flowy at this point, and now we're gonna build up to the climax. The actual climax of the scene is whenever they crash. Here it comes. Cut, 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 boom. Really slow, nice fluid right here. Boom! One big cut. Boom! The bad guy is getting closer and closer as the scene goes on, and at the very end, he just loses Miles completely. Okay, and so this is what I was talking about before. Why have the tire? Why have the tire shot? You know, you didn't necessarily need it because you saw the information right here. You saw that he popped the tire. Your information is there. The tire is popped. So why have the pop tire? It's because you need an extra cut. You need something a little bit more snappy, a little bit more cutty, because what cuts do, it makes people anxious. It's like there's stuff flashing, it's going faster than you can see. It kind of builds up that momentum. It builds up that anxiety. So, cut, cut, cut. That's why the tire shot, baby. Here's the red light. That cut was really short, tire pop. And yep, and this is the point where they get hit by another car in traffic, and then everything just goes chill, downhill from there. Click the link below for 2 free months of Skillshare. I'm gonna put somebody, there's a storyboard artist that worked at Walt Disney and Pixar, and his class on Skillshare looks pretty legit. Go check out his stuff if you want to learn how to storyboard. 2 months free. So yeah, if you really want to help me out, if you like my videos, if you like my content, you like what I'm trying